Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Hump Day. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Wednesday, where if you're smiling on a Wednesday, it's a sure sign of a killer weekend.
No one smiles on Wednesday.
Sometimes I do.
Okay. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning kebab. What have you made for me this morning?
I have made for you some jasmine green tea, and I put in some milk because I know you're not a fan of green tea, and some agave.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan. But that's a 2 out of 5. It's okay. But that green tea cuts right through that milk.
I was hoping to smooth it out so that you can get the floral taste, but without the green tea like sharpness.
Green tea hates my taste buds.
You know what? Maybe I'll try some brown rice green tea for you next time.
Still okay, though.
All right, perfect. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. Let's get right into this for our first story. Am I the a-hole for making my son walk home in the rain? Throwaway for privacy. My son, Aaron, is 17. I used to have primary custody of him, but as he got older, he wanted to spend 50-50 with his dad. His father was an alcoholic, and I was pretty adamant I didn't want Aaron to spend time with him. However, he was insistent. After I sat him down and explained why I had chosen not to allow it when he was younger, and he still wanted to go, I let him. I probably could have fought it through court, but chose not to as Aaron was 15 by then and in my opinion old enough to decide for himself. Not long after Aaron's 17th birthday, his father passed due to complications from alcohol abuse. I wasn't at the funeral or any of the services because I'd cut off most contact with his dad long before. The only time I spoke to him was concerning Aaron when Aaron started living with him. Aaron, though, is understandably in a lot of pain. He'd bonded very closely with his dad in the time he was with him, and it doesn't seem like he learned anything from his demise either. I always warned Aaron that if he started drinking, I was going to have nothing to do with him. Well, now that he knows I can't make good on that threat anymore, he spent a great deal of time either drunk or worse. The day after he came home, he broke into my wine locker, and he was so drunk by the time I got off work that I had to take him to the hospital. I've put him into teen support for children of alcoholics and tried to get him into some support/group resources offered by his school, but he's not interested in anything. Yesterday evening, he was supposed to be at one of these support group meetings when Aaron called me. He was drunk again and wanted me to come get him because it was raining and he was scared he might fall. According to him, he was only an hour from the house, so I told him I wasn't getting him and that if he was scared he might fall, he shouldn't have gotten drunk. When he got home, he was in tears and was like, "I know I'm a disappointment to you, blah, blah, but why do you hate me?" I told him I didn't hate him, just his decisions. It was a shitty night, and today he's giving me the silent treatment. Am I the a-hole?
Well, Wednesday morning. This one's a sad story because we're dealing with addiction. I guess we'll get started here. So, OP is the mother. She had a son with her now late ex. They got a divorce. She says it's through the alcohol abuse. So they split, and she said she had primary custody of her son till he was 15. And then she let him make his decisions after she told him the full truth about how everything went down.
Correct.
And as most kids do, they see the person, the parent, and not the addiction. Kids tend to do that, and they try to see the best in people.
Especially their parents. I can understand that.
So he does. He wants to grow closer to his father. Unfortunately, his dad never was able to get out of his vice, and it sounds like the son had finally started making a connection with his dad over the last 2 years of his life. And then again, he passes. His son's 17. He's very young. That's not easy for anyone to handle. And unfortunately, he's picked up that habit from his father and he started drinking. Sounds like OP, being his mom, has been trying to get out ahead of that. She said she's getting him into counseling, getting him into groups, young adult groups, to help him with what he's going through right now. So she is trying to be proactive and hoping he doesn't slip further into it. I'm going to say, just based off of my experience, especially when it comes to alcoholism within my family, that kid's 17. You let him walk home in the rain an hour away from home, you know he's struggling. I'm assuming that the father probably passed within this year. So this is all fresh. I wouldn't have let my son walk home in the rain. I gotta say that, in my opinion, I feel that you are the a-hole. He's 17. It sounds like he needs you. And I would just say keep trying. Don't give up on him.
Well, the consensus was also that the poster was the a-hole. In fact, a lot of it stems back to he's a minor. And you let a minor get into a more dangerous situation because you're frustrated. And that's not a good way to be. Now, another commenter reached out and said, I really don't think this is an AITA post. You need to make sure that he gets professional help.
Yep.
And all that we can do is wish the best on this growing young man. A loss, even as you're an older adult and have more experience in the world, can be debilitating.
Sure. No one's ready for it.
Not even...
And even if you've gone through it, it's a whole different experience with every single time. So...
And every single person.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it just seems like he's going down a very destructive path. I hope that the poster can find it in her to be patient and to be understanding. This isn't her ex. This is her son.
Well, I think maybe that's where some of it's waning, is because she's dealt with it with his father. And maybe there's less patience this go around, but you gotta get some. It's your son. He needs you. Don't quit on him.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this story behind and let's go into our next story and see what a vacation is like. Am I the a-hole for not approving of my wife's vacation request?
I'm already going to say approving is pretty bad. She had to get the stamp of approval for you. Uh-oh. All right.
Let's see what's happening here.
This is not the good.
Throwaway count.
I would say yes.
For some context, my wife and I have been married for 7 years.
Okay.
We have 4 kids together. Our first when she was 19. I'm 2 years older. Unfortunately, he passed, and we now have 3 children, 9, 7, and 5. So she was either pregnant or raising a baby a majority of her 20s. Well, she's turning 30 this year, and it's also her golden birthday. I'm not sure if she's having a midlife crisis or something, but she wants to travel for that entire month. She proposed the kids and I for the first 10 days, 10 days with her sister, and 10 days solo. I think it's crazy she would want to leave me and the kids that long, but she's arguing that she's spent all of her youth taking care of us and just wants 1 month to experience the things she's missed. I'll add that I travel for work, but a week at a time before spending days back home. She's a great mother and partner, but I just don't see how and why she'd want to be away that long. I don't think it's reasonable. Her sister/family is on me about how she deserves this, and she's more than someone's mother. I really need second opinions because I can't see how anyone would find this acceptable. So, am I the a-hole? Edited. I do not mind watching my kids. When I'm not traveling, I work from home and am with them daily. I have a good support system and would not need her here. However, it's not acceptable for a mother to spend 20 days away from her children, husband, and from her job. She can find herself in a spa or something. Am I the a-hole? Just to provide more context, apparently she was okay to go ahead and get this month to work from home. So while she'd be spending 10 days by herself and 10 days with her sister, it would technically be...
She's going to be juggling work.
Correct.
Okay. A lot of people have been doing that, though. Is if you can get lucky enough to find where your job lets you work from home, people tend to go, and as long as you can get your work done, as long as you have a reliable internet connection, you can normally get away with that. So she's covered her base with that.
Correct.
So is it about a monetary thing? Because a month-long vacation could get pretty pricey.
Actually, the poster admitted that it wouldn't financially hurt them at all.
Fantastic. So
with her being approved to work from home, he just doesn't think it's right.
So he's just painting himself into the I'm a real dickhead corner.
Yes.
Okay. I'm happy he set the stage for it, because that's really the only other thing that I had any questions about, because he does a good job of outlining it. Of course, she's got the okie doke from work, so she'll continue working while she's on this trip. And he says that they have the framework built around the family where he doesn't need her for 20 something days, right? So that's covered. He says that she's lived her entire early adulthood being either a mom or working. So,
And she had her first kid at 19.
and it sounds like they just kept having kids. So there was really not time for any downtime.
So here's the one thing that I would like to put into perspective. They've had 4 kids starting when she was 19. Unfortunately, it sounds like his oldest had passed.
Yeah.
And they now have 3 kids. So I would just like to go ahead and clarify that.
Do they say when that happened? Or is it just that it happened?
Just that it happened. They don't really necessarily say when.
That's very sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Outside of all the facts that he's laid, he only stands on one leg at the end of the day, because I don't think it's right that she does it. That's the only rebuttal.
It's not acceptable for a mother.
I'll go back to what I said when you started this story, when you read the title. Giving her approval. She doesn't need your approval. That's not how that works.
He has also rebutted this, by the way. And he said, I know she doesn't need my approval. She asked me.
Okay. But then why did you frame it in that, if that's not how you truly think about it? Because...
But there are better ways to phrase it if it is just, my wife asked me an opinion and I gave her mine.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you gave her your opinion. It sounds like you gave her an order. I wonder where she's going. I hope she has a good time. And I hope our OP takes his foot off the gas. Everyone wants to vacation and do things differently. If that's how she wants to do things, and she can afford to do it, and it not put a strain financially on the kids or the household, and then I don't see why you would have such a hard problem with this. Because it sounds like she's working throughout the entirety of this. So she's being responsible. I mean, even we've done that. When we travel, we make sure that some work still does get done.
Oh, of course. Responsibilities need to happen.
We have a bunch of traveling we're going to be doing later this year, but we're still going to make sure our responsibilities for work get done. So that shouldn't be an excuse.
Is it difficult? Of course.
Oh, of course it is.
Is it worth it? Definitely.
Yep. Time management is important,
I'm terrible with time management.
but that's how we help each other.
Yes. Timstradamus keeps me straight.
And Voyse tries to make sure that I'm not a stickler all the time about being the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland, where it's time.
And at the same time, I always keep us motivated and positive.
Yes, definitely. So I'm definitely going to say, OP, you are 100% the a-hole.
Well, the consensus is that he's definitely the a-hole.
I do look forward to this, though.
So one of the things that I've taken from the comment section here is that she requested 20 days to herself to spend it however she wants away from her family.
Okay.
She went through pregnancy for at least 36 months throughout their marriage. 20 days in the 3 years that she physically carried their children and watched her body and mind change is a huge thing. The fact that he can't seem to understand that or wrap his head around it is pretty baffling.
I hope he wasn't being combative with people in the comments.
Oh boy.
But your smile and that comment.
Now, a lot of commenters equated him leaving for a week at a time for his work as being somewhere along the lines of what she's doing, right?
Sure, she's working.
Where he said this wasn't a vacation, but he's not getting, she's technically not on vacation. She's still going to be working. So it is by far no different than him saying his work travel is because of work. It's not truly a vacation, but her vacation is also technically not really a vacation. It's still work. You can consider it just travel, an extended travel time. Now, on top of that, yeah, he was getting pretty combative in the comment section. It didn't give him a very good look. Now, I can't really speak on all of the comments that he put down. Unfortunately, the moderators for AITA either deemed it against the rules because they were, from what he was claiming, deleting his comments.
Okay.
I wish I could have read them before it was deleted. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to, but if it was deleted by the moderators, I'd have to assume that it was pretty rude. They generally wouldn't have unless it tends to go beyond the guidelines.
Well, it sounds like ROP has some growing up to do and needs to start looking at his wife as a partner and not an object to be controlled.
I think there's a lot of space for him to grow. He just needs to stop being defensive and take the criticism.
I think that's good advice for everyone.
Well, let's go ahead and go on to our next story, and let's see if you agree with this or not. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my daughter's wedding because she won't let me walk her down the aisle? I'm a 48-year-old man, and my 19-year-old daughter has always been an independent thinker. I raised her to be independent and think for herself, which I've always appreciated. However, we recently hit a bit of a snag. She got engaged and decided that she doesn't want me to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. She argues that her mother and I don't own her. Therefore, we have no right to give her away. I feel hurt by this because we never treated her like an object or piece of property. Rather, we've tried our best to provide her with a wonderful life. Her stance seems extreme to me, and despite discussions, she's refusing to budge on the issue. I respect her choices. I feel she's disregarding our feelings completely. As a response, I told her that if she feels that way, then I won't be paying for her wedding. I don't want to come across as controlling or manipulative. It's true, I don't own her. I also don't owe her a fully funded wedding. She can pay for her own wedding if she's insistent on this stance. I'm feeling quite conflicted about this. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, so this isn't about making the wedding about me, walking her down the aisle while all eyes are on her anyway, and then sitting down is hardly making the wedding about me. It's about her attitude. She had every opportunity in life so far, and to exclude us from this day is a spit in the face. It's a rejection of everything we've done for her, sacrificed for her, given her. It's selfish. 90% of wedding traditions and symbolism had roots in things we don't acknowledge today. Should we stop all of them? The rings, the flowers, the dress, the wedding party, the cake, the flower girls? A father walking his daughter down the aisle has been about respect, pride, love, and honoring the father-daughter relationship for far longer than it was about ownership. Independent thinking does not mean rude or selfish thinking. Being an independent thinker does not give someone the license to disregard or disrespect the thoughts, feelings, or perspectives of others. Independent thinking is about maintaining the ability to think critically and form one's own opinions while remaining respectful and considerate of others. It is a balance between asserting individuality and engaging in meaningful and respectful interactions with others. Edited to add too. Also note that our relationship is not so weak that this disagreement will ruin our relationship. We are still close with each other in spite of this. There is zero chance of her not inviting us to her wedding, regardless of who pays for it, or cutting off contact and withholding grandchildren. I feel sorry for anyone who suggests that as a possibility. Likewise, there is zero chance of us refusing to go to the wedding or cutting her out of the will. In life, people disagree, even strongly. It's a natural part of life. We don't end lifelong relationships over it. Am I the a-hole?
Okay, so let us start unpacking the story. OP is in his 40s. Sounds like he has an awesome daughter who happens to be 19, and she found someone to get married to. Awesome. Starting the next part of your life. So, sounds like OP is going to be paying for the wedding up till a certain point. We're going to get into that. So he says several times when he's describing his daughter that he raised her to be an independent person and thinker. But he's not allowing her to independently think about what she does and does not want to have happen during her wedding. She tells him that she does not want him to walk her down the aisle because she is not an item to give away, because that is how it once was. He's also pretty rational when he talks about it in his edit to ads, that those may be traditions, but they don't stand for the things they used to. But it's more of a symbol of respect and the bond between a father and a daughter. She's not hearing those things because, again, she's looking at it through her lens. So he's upset about the whole thing, but it sounds like you've done a good job of raising your daughter to be exactly what you wanted her to be. But now you're not respecting it. But he's sitting there going, well, we can have these civil conversations and talk and have disagreements, but you're not allowed to have those thoughts and arguments if they would go against what I want. You can't have those two things being in the same room. You raised her to be this. She is this. You should be proud of that. You should understand that that is not a slight against you. But I do also understand that there are traditions. It is nice to feel accepted and respected and for the things that he says, right? Because they're logical. I can understand why you would be hurt, especially if it is a tradition in your culture. So I would just say in this point, I can understand it from both sides. I don't think any of them are the a-holes, just because I can understand the father's hurt, because he does sound like it ruffled his feathers. But I can also understand, or she understands that she does not want that tradition in her wedding.
So the consensus was he's not really the a-hole. It's her choice to have her wedding how she wants. It's his choice if he even wants to give her money for it.
Sure.
And let me go ahead and provide you with a little update from our poster. So our poster says, for all the you the a-hole people out there, I've decided to give my daughter a gift in the same amount as her older sister's wedding cost. She can use this for whatever she wants. For the not the a-hole people out there, thanks. Most of you get it. My daughter has also agreed to figure out a way to include us in the way that doesn't involve giving her away. We are still in the early wedding planning stages, and she is almost 20, so she will likely be 21 before the actual wedding. Thanks for the concern, I guess. I approve of the groom-to-be if that matters to anyone. We disagree, but that doesn't mean it's a relationship-ending event. My daughter is laughing hilariously at all of you that are saying she will disinvite us from the wedding or cut us off from grandkids. I just feel sorry for you all. That is petty and manipulative, and regardless of what you all say, I've raised her better than that. Now, let me go ahead and provide you my own viewpoint on this. I never had the chance for my dad to walk me down the aisle, and it's something that I really miss. It's such a small thing, and I know a lot of people take these connotations where it's as if you're treating someone as property, but I'd like to think of it as something different. For me, that walk down the aisle represents the journey that he, as a parent, had with me, and he is making sure that the next journey that I'm going to go on is going to be one that's going to be of my dreams. I wish every day that he could have walked me down the aisle to you, Timstradamus. Unfortunately, we didn't have that chance. And rather than look at it for the negative that that whole tradition started with, I think it's important that your perspective, when you see that something's bad, it can change to something good. It doesn't need to stay that bad thing, especially when you have family that see it as that positive thing. Now, I understand viewpoints can change.
Sure.
And it sounds like her father's trying to treat this in a good way, where he's like, look, I'm not going to fully fund your entire wedding, but I will give you the same that I gave your sister.
Sure, he's being fair.
I think what he did was pretty stand up.
But he also does say it at the end there as well, that him and his daughter are working on trying to make it to where he can still be a part of the ceremony.
My biggest hope for them is maybe they can make their own tradition.
It sounds like that's what they're going to try to, and he's keeping an open mind to his daughter. And like I said before, he raised her to be independent and think for herself, and she's exercising that. So just be happy that that's what you brought into the world.
I agree. Well, that's the wedding planning stage. Let's go to our next story and see what the actual wedding's like. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter be kicked out of a wedding since she wasn't modest enough? My daughter is 18, Emma. Before she turned 18, we had a rule that I could ask them to change if the outfit wasn't appropriate. Rarely happened because I truly didn't care as long as the main parts were covered. Now, when they turned 18, they are an adult, and most of the house rules didn't really apply. We were invited to a wedding to a close friend. My daughter is friends with her daughter, and I am friends with the mother. They are religious. I know this, and she knows this. It was a church, and the invite said modest, no cleavage, knee length, and so on. I didn't expect anything else. Well, a few weeks ago, Emma showed what dress she was going to wear, and I mentioned that it won't work. The dress was cute, but strapless. I thought she would change it, but didn't. So on the day of the wedding, she wore that. I even commented that it wouldn't work again. She said it will be fine. Well, we get there, and her friend's brother stopped her at the door. She tried to argue, but got kicked out. I still went to the wedding. I got home today, and she called me an ass for not defending her and staying at the wedding with their old school dress code. Am I the a-hole?
No. Sorry. I guess we'll start the story off with this. She had rules before her daughter was 18. Okay, respectable. Her daughter turns 18. Now she's letting her daughter make her own decisions because she's an adult. Good on you for, because I know that's a really hard switch off to make when your kids are kids, and then as they get older, you have to learn how to let them make the decisions for themselves so they become responsible adults.
It's a transition.
Yep, we're going through ours. But in this situation, so her daughter turns 18. She shows her the dress weeks before this wedding happens. She said that she knows, her and her daughter both know that their friends are modest. They said it in the wedding invitations, all the requirements. Everyone knew this going into it. But daughter shows her mother, ROP, what the dress is. She says, there's no way that thing is working. Weeks pass, morning of, she comes out and then she sees the dress one more time and tells her, that is not going to fly. 18-year-old daughter proceeds to go, meh, shows up to the wedding, and at the door, instead of hearing all these terrible stories about how people let other people come in against dress code and all that and dealing with it through their ceremony, sounds like there was a good guy at the door and said, that's not acceptable. You're not bringing that in. Sounds like they had a door checker. So 18-year-old proceeds to walk in and gets denied at the door. She's an adult. She made those decisions. And then our OP proceeds to go and enjoy the wedding that she dressed appropriately for, because those were the requirements of the host. Every wedding's different. Your daughter's going to learn very quickly that when people invite you to things and there's a requirement for a dress code that if you don't meet, you don't get to go. Obviously, she did not learn those lessons. You tried to teach her. Life outside of you taught her.
Inside the comment section, she said all she needed to do was wear a cardigan.
Again, good life lesson. She's 18. There'll be more of them.
So many more.
And that's the best part about being a parent. No matter how prepared you think you've gotten your kid, they're just going to have to learn those lessons on their own anyway. You can hope for the best, but at the end of the day, it does come down to their decisions. And hey, good on you for not sitting there and making her change and letting her face that. I think that was a great learning experience for her. So you're definitely not the a-hole OP. Thank you for sharing the story.
I agree. Well, the consensus is also not the a-hole. In fact, she went ahead and she actually put in the comment section how aware she is of other people's religions and their beliefs and what is acceptable. And she actually said one time when she went to a monk monastery, they requested that she take off all of her jewelry because it's not seen as good to have that kind of, I guess you could say, worldly greed come into the temple. And she did so because she saw it as a sign of respect for that religion.
Sure.
She sees this as no different, where she was requested to do something in respect to whatever tradition, values, or religion it is that they are a part of. It might not be something that she believes in, but it's something that she respects in others. And it made me look up to her thinking that she's a pretty good poster. Well, let me just go ahead and say, if you live by the I do what I want values, you're really going to get the I do what I want treatment.
Yeah. Around, find out.
She's 18. She'll learn.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to our last story of the day. And I'm excited for this one. Am I the a-hole for not telling her I was married, but not promising a relationship?
Mamma mia.
I was back where I grew up in Texas because my mom passed away, and I needed to take care of selling the house, getting our stuff out, etc. I'm married, 25 years old, but my wife had to stay in Cali for work reasons. While I was back home, I met Ava. She's 18. She reminded me a lot of my wife. She was clearly miserable living in this small town, living with shitty parents, and at the end of her rope. She told me she wanted to move to Cali for college, but her parents told her she wasn't allowed. I said I'd take her. The college was 45 minutes from where I live, and I needed to head back in fall anyway. I would have left a lot sooner if it wasn't for her, honestly, but I said I'd wait for her to graduate, get her stuff together, etc. In the meantime, we started spending a lot of time together. She said I was unlike anyone she's met before. I was bisexual, and not ashamed of it. She was bi too, but had never been in a relationship before. It seemed like she avoided people / had trust issues and kept things close to the chest. My wife was interested in adding a woman into the family, as she is bi as well. I didn't know how I felt about it until I met Ava. We started sleeping together and spending all of our time together. It was amazing, and I couldn't remember being so happy. I promised she could stay with me and Callie, but I hadn't told her about my wife yet, which my wife said was a terrible idea. I eventually told her because I realized she needed to sort out living arrangements. What if she didn't want to live with me after finding out? So I finally, after months of being together, told her everything. It did not go well. Before our fling, I asked her if she would consider a poly relationship. She said, "I don't know. I'm not experienced, but sure, I guess." I hope she meant that. She did not. She cried and said she felt used, that she loved me, that she felt cheated, that she thought I was the one for her, but she was second best, a poor imitation of my wife. I told her this. I never made any promises to her that we were in a monogamous relationship, but I do love her and want a future with her and my wife. She thinks our relationship was meaningless because I have my one and only life partner, but that isn't true. I can still love and adore the both of them. I thought she was open-minded about relationships/sexuality, but clearly not. I never meant for things to get this involved, but I feel horrible because she's so hurt. She said she hates my wife for being okay with me doing this to her. I said she should give her a chance, us a chance. She said I made her trust issues 100 times worse. I reminded her she said she'd be okay with a poly relationship once. She kept asking why I did this to her and left crying. I looked at her Snapchat last night to see her playing Dear John, since it's so relatable now. JFC. Am I in the wrong here? I only wanted to help her and had good intentions.
You have picked a interesting, terrible story to end off Wednesday with. How old is our clown?
25.
25. And girlfriend in the story is 18.
Correct.
It sounds like she's just graduating high school.
Yes.
So she knows nothing of the world. And her introduction to a relationship, what she thought was a relationship, was this wiener jacket. You are the type of person people teach their kids about. You're a liar. You're a manipulator. You're a groomer, because that's what you did to this girl when you found her. Everyone is allowed to have the relationships they want. You not disclosing that from the very start makes you a terrible person. You groomed her into that situation. You were asking and dropping hints along the way to feel her out. And she is 100% right. Your wife is suspect too. The fact that you two sat there and went, yeah, she doesn't know about me, but I'm open to it. I think she does say that she is bothered by it.
Correct. She does say it's a terrible idea.
But she still goes along with it.
That's also true.
That's bad. She's just a bigger problem as he is. Because at that point, you should have told your wiener jacket of a husband that that is a terrible way to go about life. I truly hope that this OP understands how scary they are. Because he says some really tricky words, the way he tries to manipulate and word gymnastics this whole thing.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot that's very scary about him.
Oh, definitely. I feel it as well.
You know, like, it's almost like he does this game where he's like, just because I didn't tell you, it doesn't mean I lied. Those type of people are the ones you have to cut out of your life. An omission of truth does not give you a pass. You're definitely the a-hole. I hope people got to shine a light on you and you got to see it for a little bit because, like I said, I think you're a dangerous individual.
Well, the consensus is that he is a resounding, he is the a-hole. In fact, this has been reposted on Am I the Devil? And they've also given him parts of their mind on that one as well. They said he's a creep, he's a liar, he's a pervert who tries to take advantage of young women by manipulating them and lying. That lying by omission is still lying. Now, let me go ahead and read to you this comment and what they said. They said, "You try to justify your actions through technicalities. Didn't say we were monogamous. You hid the fact that you were married. Your entire relationship was predicated on the lie via omission. You're the a-hole, and the trauma you have caused this poor girl should keep you up at night for the rest of your life because what you did was monstrous." Now, I would like to say, back when I was growing up, the word grooming really wasn't a word.
Sure.
It actually didn't, there wasn't such a thing as grooming but I have had my experience when it comes to it. And I can say that this type of person very much reminded me of my past and when I was 16 and dealing with that, where you have somebody that tells you when you started to develop some form of feelings for them, that if you love them, you'll truly be interested in this thing and you'll truly be open to this. When that wasn't what you went into this relationship as. You understand that somebody has certain feelings, whether you're bisexual or whether you're open to certain ideas, but you never ever go into a relationship lying, and you never go into it knowing that you're potentially trying to change their mind about something. That's awful.
Yes.
That is heinous.
I said I'd put
Simply
them on a list
awful.
if I could. This person's a danger to society.
Your current wife told you that what you thought that you're doing is the wrong thing. And yes, she's awful for letting it continue
Just
to
as
happen.
bad.
But the fact that he kept this going for months
He's scary.
is crazy. The fact that this girl didn't know, sleeping with this guy, that he was married and had a whole nother life.
But that he thought by telling her she'd just be okay with it.
And then try to essentially gaslight her by saying, but you said this
You were open
and you
to
said
it.
that.
No.
For anybody that listens, all relationships should start with the foundation of trust. And the moment that that's gone, there is no relationship.
Yep, that's a gross story. That last story?
That's our last story.
Terrible way to end off Wednesday.
Just
Started.
like the tea that you really don't care for.
Yeah. Well, as our stories come to a close, hopefully your Wednesday goes better.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to hear what your opinions are on these stories today, so please leave them in the comments section below.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.